Cheers. I already drank my water with lemon juice, so that was great, I promise. But I hope you're continue to drink some nutritious and wonderful elixir. So I'm gonna get back to right to it. The story from yesterday that we started was about Victor Frankl. So Victor Frankl, and for those that have not, that actually joining me today for the very first time, maybe listen to the episode from yesterday. I started the story. I'm going to continue from where I left off. So Victor Frankl has made a decision to stay in Austria with his mom and dad. So during that time, he was also writing a book. So he was very, very close to finishing his manuscript. But at the same time, the World War II was about to break out, and he knew that he had maybe a few days to leave his hometown. So they started the packing, and he decided to save his manuscript inside of his coat. So he ripped it open, put it in there, sewed it back up, and was ready to go. Unfortunately, his family ended up going to concentration camp, and as we all know, the first thing that the Germans would do would make you strip. So with that, not only he was separated from his mom and dad, he also lost his child, his manuscript, which was extremely big deal to him as well. All his lifelong work, concepts and ideas that has been truly occupying him for so long was lost just a matter of seconds. So he had options to start kind of observing and not only himself but also people how are we behaving in the most cruel, unimaginable circumstances. So he started taking little notes, observations, started talking to people, and seeing how he was pushed to the limit, how he would behave. So, based on his experience, he was able to survive, number one, and he was able to write a book called Men's Search for Meaning. For those that have not read it, I would highly encourage you to buy it and read it or rent it. And let me know in the comments if you've read it. Maybe you simply hated it. It's one of those books that was made a huge impression on me and stayed with me for a long time. I've recommended this book to many people. I would love to one person to commit to read that book if you haven't yet. So if that's you, do it. So getting back to the Viktor Frankl story. So after in the 40s, 50s, 60s, he started traveling a lot internationally and giving lectures, and he was professor of psychology and was desired by a lot of top universities all over the world. And in a classroom, at the very end of it, he would always ask one question. He would ask, so what do you think, my dear student, what is my purpose in life? And a lot of people would raise their hand and say, well, dear professor, your purpose of life is ability to survive most unimaginable things once you set your mind to it. It's like, yeah, sure, we're close. And another student would raise his or her hand, and she would say, one person is able to withstand anything once they realize their purpose. Well, sure, okay. And finally, somebody raised their hand and said, your purpose of life was to help us to find ours. And he goes, bingo. So we did a big circle going back to the purpose of life. And I think one of the biggest conclusions that Viktor Frankl reached was people who were able to survive concentration camp had a reason to live. And I think now, more than ever, I think this question is more accurate to maybe spend a little bit of time to think about why are we here, right? A lot of times, autopilot, our life is a little bit out of whack, and maybe this is a chance for us to slow down and think, which direction am I going? So I would encourage you to think about it. If it's something that you can relate to or not, I would love to know it all. And I'm going to maybe end, excuse me, with one of the quotes that Dr. Frankl wrote. He wrote, when we no longer are able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. I'm going to read it again. When we no longer are able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. And I'm going to read one more, the last one, which is one of my beloved ones. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. And that space is our power to choose our response. And our response lies our growth and our freedom. So I think once you start hearing those quotes, you can definitely see that he has a lot of wisdom that he, and especially the moment I read it, I was like, yes, absolutely. He was tested every day for many, many, many years in the concentration camp. And you do have an option how to respond, how to choose an outcome. Maybe not necessarily an outcome, but how you can choose to respond. And a lot of times that is going to create a different outcome for you and people around you. So I do not leave you on that philosophical note. I want to make sure that you are choosing something that serves you, something that benefits you and people around you. So be kind, be good. I'll talk to you tomorrow.